What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and welcome to Premier League Week 6. So, let's go ahead and hop right into this because it was a fairly long weekend with most of the games happening on Saturday for some reason. Only one game on Sunday and one game on Monday, so yeah, there's a lot to talk about on Saturday. First game to talk about is good old London derby, West Ham versus Tottenham Hotspur. Is at West Ham. Tottenham have looked good on the road. West Ham trying to find a bit of form. Ultimately, not really a good game for either team. West Ham, Spurs win 3-2, so West Ham lose at home. But the win for Spurs isn't enough for me. In my opinion, the fact that they nearly let West Ham back into it, the fact that Aurier got himself sent off for a stupid challenge on a second yellow, could have been a red on its own, so all the talk about, I don't know if that first yellow was deserved, who cares? It was a bad challenge anyway. It was borderline red without having already the first yellow. But just the lack of discipline there. And then they let West Ham back into the game and nearly concede another one with a late shove from, what's his name? Sanchez, I think? Davidson Sanchez? I don't know. Their new defender that came in this transfer window. He shoves Carroll in the back and gets pretty lucky that the referee doesn't see it because that would have been the equalizing goal. And it should have been so simple for them. Last season, Spurs, if they had gone up 3-0 last season, no chance of West Ham ever getting back into it. It doesn't matter how good West Ham have gotten this season. Tottenham were very good about shutting out games and making sure teams don't come back into it. And so the fact that they nearly let West Ham back into it, and even before Aurier got got his red, West Ham had already gotten a goal back. So to see that they're conceding a little bit this season and they're not doing well at home, it's looking like a bit of a rocky start for Spurs so far. So, and obviously for West Ham, losing at home, like I said, not a good result for them no matter who they're facing. They've got to start picking up some results because they're starting off really, really poor this season. And considering some of the buys that they've made, it's looking pretty bad for Slaven Bilic. I would not be surprised if in the next couple weeks, maybe he's gone, depending on whether or not they can get some wins here and there. But on to what was, 6 games at the 10 o'clock Eastern time set. First of all, Swansea versus Watford at Liberty Stadium. Watford coming away with the 3 points, 2-1 there. Not a good result for Swansea. Boney got his first start, but didn't really contribute at all, and then Abraham comes on to get the goal. So not good for Boney to see that he's returning to his old club. He's a striker that they picked up, and they're thinking, okay, we've got some good players in now. But they're still not really clicking. And to see that Abraham had to be the one to get the goal, obviously as a Chelsea fan, I'm like, yes! But, to see that the young striker that's on loan from another team is the one doing it and not the striker that they brought in who's a veteran and has been at the club before, it's a little bit worrying for them. And on top of that, while Watford have started off the season very strong, they should expect to win at home. These are games, especially against sides that are going to be somewhat mid-table like Watford. You've got to win those games. Those are the ones that you got to be picking up 3 points on, or else you're in danger of flirting with relegation all season. So, very poor result for Swansea, but for Watford, it's another win, and it's a win on the road too. They're doing so well. They're doing well in the face of all the people that said they were going down this season. People thought they didn't have it in them. Marco Silva's proven them wrong. He wasn't able to keep Hull up last season, but he moved to Watford, and now he's getting it done there. So I am happy for them because so many people were talking bad about them. It's kind of nice to see them prove all of the people that just didn't see the quality that they have wrong. Next up, we got Stoke versus Chelsea. Obviously, Chelsea fan, love this result. I think a lot of people are talking about... I'll go ahead and talk about this one in tandem with the Man City result. Because most people are saying, great result for Chelsea, but... look at Man City. What a great result for them. They're flying. Here's the thing. You look at Man City's result. Yes, 5-0, very impressive score. But it's at home, and it's against Crystal Palace. Whereas Chelsea's result, 4-0 on the road at Stoke, who've looked pretty good this season. And, Stoke held Man U to a draw at their place. So to see Chelsea go on the road to a very difficult Stoke team and managed to come away with a 4-0 win. And Hazard and Fabregas didn't even start, so 2 of their key players from last season weren't even on the field, in the first half. They still managed to come away with a clean sheet and 4 goals. And everybody's looking at Man City 5 goals and it's like, oh, they scored 1 more goal, so they had the best result of the weekend. I don't know how many people are saying it, but I did see a couple articles saying that Man City had the better result. In my opinion, while obviously Man City winning it's a great result for them, it's expected. Palace haven't scored a single goal this season. They're still winless, no points, no draws, all losses. You kind of expect it. And so that's why I had to talk about these two in tandem, because it's not just, Chelsea win, great result for them. They look like one of the best. Everybody's talking about the two Manchester clubs, talking about how they look like the best teams this season. They're going to be the two battling it out. Chelsea showed this weekend, don't count us out yet. Yes, we had a little slip up at the beginning of the season, but we're still involved in this. We're still involved in this race. So obviously as a Chelsea fan, I am going to hype up Chelsea a little bit more than usual, but looking at it from an unbiased point of view, you have to say that this result does say Chelsea still has a chance. Chelsea are still involved in the title race just as much as either Manchester club. So that's why I had to talk about those two sort of together. But before I talk about the Man City result again, talk about Southampton Man U, because this is another game that sort of everybody's talking about. All of these 3 teams won. Man City, Man U, Chelsea all win, but Man U go away to Southampton, who in my opinion have been really struggling this season, and only managed to get a goal. And this is a Man U team that have been flying high, scoring nonstop, and now they can only score 1 goal at Southampton and nearly concede 1 late on. I mean, I got to watch the last 3 minutes of it. They got very close to conceding. So it's kind of showing that maybe without Pogba, they're not as fluent in the attack. Maybe he does, maybe they do lack something without him. I don't know how big of a part he's going to play. Obviously, one of the big talking points this season has been Matic freeing up Pogba. So without Pogba now in the midfield, I do think they lack something going forward. And I think the fact that they can only get 1 goal and that it was such a close game, when Southampton really haven't looked that solid this season, yeah, it's a little bit worrying for them that it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult without Pogba. And on top of that, it's just, you look at the team, you look at the defense. This is defense that still looks shaky. Within that last 3 minutes that I saw, they look like they could have conceded because, you take Matic out of the equation, you have him step out and get the ball in behind him. That defense is not good enough to hold up against some of the better attacks in the league. So I'll be very interested to see whenever Man U goes up against some of the better teams like Man City, like Chelsea. I'll be very, very curious to see how those games are going to go. As for right now, though, they do have Crystal Palace next weekend, so obviously don't see them slipping up there. But after that, that's when the games start to pick up, and they start to face some of the better teams. So it'll be a little bit of a difficult run for them over the next month or so. I'll be very curious to see how they handle that. But back onto the Man City result. Like I said, good result for Man City, but I think, once again, the big talking point has to be Crystal Palace. This is now 6 games without a goal. Who cares about the losses? Who cares about the draws? You're not scoring. There's a problem here. You have to be able to get something. You've got Man U next. You've got Chelsea after them. You've got to get at least a draw out of one of those games. And of course, for both Man U and Chelsea, both of their thought processes will be, we can't be the team that gives Crystal Palace their first point. We can't be the team that gives Crystal Palace their first goal. So it'll be a little bit of a psychological battle as well. But I just think the fact that they didn't manage to get the job done in any of their first few games, they had a couple easy games here and there. They weren't able to get it done in those games, and now this is what's happening to them. They're going away to Man City. I'm pretty sure, can't remember if it's away to Man U. I'm pretty sure it's away to Man U as well, and then at home to Chelsea. This isn't a good run for them, and it's highly possible that they'll finish the first 8 games without a point and without a goal. So, yeah, I know a lot of people want to focus on the Man City aspect, but I honestly think this is just a really bad sign for Crystal Palace of things to come in the next couple weeks. Final 2 games. First one, Everton, Bournemouth. Everton managed to get a 2-1 win, come down from 1-0 deficit, and Nias, who was at Hull last season on loan, didn't really seem to be a part of the Everton lineup. now all of a sudden gets a chance and scores 2 goals to win them the game. I mean, that's huge for him and huge for Everton, because the question has been, where are the goals going to come from? Calvert-Lewin has started well, but now he's sort of dropped off. Sanchez isn't doing anything. Rooney's not really doing much. So the fact that Nias managed to come onto the field and get them 2 goals to win them the game, they'll start to ask questions. Maybe he's the one. Maybe he's the answer we've been looking for. So I'll be very curious to see how they manage him in the weeks going forward. Are they going to start utilizing him more, or are they still going to try out some of the other guys to see if something will start clicking? But this is definitely a result that they needed at home, especially. But for Bournemouth, letting the lead slip like that, finally getting the goal through Josh King, who really has been quiet most of this season so far, but then you give away the lead like that, it's not looking good for them. And they're obviously down in that relegation battle right now, but for a team that was so comfortably mid-table last season and then improved even more by picking up a few good players, to be where they are now, to have dropped off so much from last season, it's got to be a worry for Eddie Howe. He's got to be wondering what's going wrong, what's it going to take. Is there something about the style of play? Is there something about the formation? What's he got to change to get them to click? Because things just continue to drop off and drop off and drop off. So I don't know who they have next weekend, but they've got to pick up, the next couple of games have to be wins or draws. If it's on the road, it's got to be a draw. If it's at home, it's got to be a win. Because if not, they'll easily just be down in relegation and struggling to get out. Then the other game at the 10 o'clock time slot was Burnley-Huddersfield. 0-0 draw, kind of typical for Burnley. I don't know what it is about them, but they play better whenever they're facing the top teams. That's just the truth of them. At home especially, they're not really as... I don't know what it is. They're just not as effective at home as they are on the road. I guess it probably has something to do with their style of play. They are kind of a park the bus and counterattack type of team. And so when they're at home, teams typically don't come out and attack them, which means their sitting back tactics don't really work. And so it kind of turns into probably a bit of a boring game. But for Huddersfield, getting a draw on the road, it's a good result. They started off the season very strongly, so it's a Burnley team that have started off very strongly as well. So to go on the road and take a point away, they'll be looking at it as a good result. But for Burnley, they'll need to start looking at different ways to win games and ways that they can do it at home as well, beyond just sitting back and then counterattacking. Because that's not the only way you're going to win games. You're going to face teams that aren't going to come out and attack you. So I think Sean Dyche will probably have to look at that a little bit more in detail and see what plan B will be if a team isn't attacking. The final game on Saturday was Leicester versus Liverpool. Pretty much a repeat of the midweek game in the EFL Cup. And we saw in that game, Leicester 2-0 win over Liverpool. But in this one, I think Liverpool came out a little bit something to prove. You got a couple players that didn't play in the midweek that came out and did play the weekend. And you can see those players made a difference. Coutinho, I don't think he played midweek. If he did, he came on as a sub. Oxlade-Chamberlain wasn't involved in this game, so they'll start to probably ask questions. Did we really get a good bye with him? But Leicester fought back very bravely, almost equalized through a penalty kick late on. It's been kind of a hit-and-miss season with them so far. They've played pretty well, and they've had a couple really good games that they just haven't been able to finish off. They haven't been able to get a draw or a win out of it. And this is a game where they played pretty well, but a couple defensive mistakes and then a lack of being able to finish a couple chances, and now all of a sudden you're down 3-2 and you've lost at home. So this is not the first time this happened this season for them. I don't think this is a fair reflection of how they're playing this season. I don't think where they are on the table is a fair reflection. But at the same time, you got to sort of put that aside and say, all right, who cares about the results? The performances are good. We just got to work on finishing our chances, and we got to make sure that other teams don't have as many chances. We got to shut them down more, because these results, if they do keep popping up, eventually it'll start to get in their minds a little bit that, okay, here's another loss where we played really well and then didn't get a point. Here's another loss where we played really well, didn't get a point. And they'll start to question themselves a little bit more, and the psychological battle going on will really start to affect them going forward. So I'm hoping they don't end up there because, I do kind of like Leicester and I want to see them succeed. But for Liverpool, this is a much needed win. They needed to get 3 points here. They needed to get something out of this game because it's not been good for them. They have really struggled in the past few weeks. A lot of questions about Klopp and what he's doing at Liverpool. So to see them get a win on the road, a lot of Liverpool fans are going to be cheering and thanking God that they finally got something here. So, going forward, I don't know if this is a sign of a turnaround for them or if this was just a lucky 3 points where, Leicester weren't able to finish and so they got lucky on the day. But there are still a few problems, conceding 2 goals, still not good enough. And obviously without Mane, there is a little bit of a lack of something going forward and just a little bit of a lack of creativity. A couple of the goals that they got, a little bit lucky. Salah's goal, Schmeichel should do better. He probably won't be able to get that header in precisely in the corner where he needed it to. So there were a couple lucky elements for them, but I'm sure they'll take the win and they'll say, all right, let's use this momentum and play even better next match and just keep improving. But I just don't know without a defense how much longer this would last. So then you get into Sunday, and the one game going on Sunday, what a cracker. We got Brighton versus Newcastle. It's at Brighton. They managed to come away with a 1-0 win. Great result for them. Not a great result for Newcastle. Brighton's got to be looking at this and saying, these are games we need to win, so good, we got the win. Newcastle's going to be looking at this game and saying, these are the games we need to at least get a point out of. It's an away game, yes, but this is a team that's struggling. We should be getting something out of this. At the same time, they have done well over the past 3 weeks. 3 wins in a row have put them in a very good position. But results like this going against them throughout the season, they'll look back at this game possibly at the end of the season and say, if we'd only gotten something out of that game, we wouldn't be in such a low position. And I do feel like it's going to be how it is this season because they lack a little something in the quality. They don't have a good attacking mid who can provide and set up the play. They just don't have a player like that. So I think they lack a little bit of quality that's going to hurt them throughout the season. But for Brighton, they need to take every single point they can. So this is definitely 3 points that they'll take and hopefully build some momentum on. And then the last game was today, Arsenal versus West Brom. It was at Arsenal. Ultimately, kind of an expected result, but I think the big point Arsenal will be taking away from this is Lacazette got himself a brace today. That's got to be huge for them because he really hasn't been producing. You've got Jesus and Aguero have both been scoring for Man City. Morata's been scoring for Chelsea. Lukaku's been scoring for Man U. What's Lacazette been doing? Oh, well, he got a couple goals here and there. He needs to start producing. He needs to start providing more, either getting assists or getting goals. He just hasn't really been involved as much as the other strikers have been. So today, getting a brace, while it is at home against West Brom, this will hopefully help him find his goal-scoring, mantra. Because if you don't have a striker up there that can finish, which Arsenal have lacked quite a bit recently, but if you don't have that guy up there that can finish your shots, can move the play around, can really test the defense and the keeper, you're going to struggle throughout most of the season. And so that's something that Arsenal have lacked and why they've struggled so often. So they'll be hoping that this game, the brace, this is where he starts to get into a bit more of a scoring, mantra is not the right word. I don't even know what word I'm looking for. But they'll just be hoping that this is it. Okay, now he's starting to score. Now he's starting to feel it. Now he's starting to get into the league a little bit more. But for West Brom, not really a game where you expect to get much out of it. You're on the road at Arsenal. You'll take a point, but a loss isn't the end of the world for you. But I think the biggest problem for them is they've dropped a few points where they should have been picking them up earlier on. And so now they're kind of in a little bit of a dead zone right down the middle where you really should have a couple more points because there are a couple games you should have won that you just didn't really play as well as you could have, and now you've drawn. And so now this loss kind of drops you down a little bit. And now you'll be looking back at those results and saying, oh, well, if we hadn't dropped points there, we could be in a better position. We wouldn't be so close to that relegation battle. So Not a poor result for them, but I do think it sort of emphasizes why they shouldn't be taking these other games against the lower teams so lightly. But whatever the case, that's been this entire weekend. Midweek games against Champions League opposition, and then a couple Europa League games as well for the England teams. Hopefully, good results for them. I do enjoy seeing English teams do well because it does mean we're doing well in the Champions League. We're going to keep our spots. We're not as in danger as we were a few years ago whenever Juventus was really tearing it up and no England team was doing well. But at the same time, still want to see England continue to do well and continue to compete because a lot of people just don't see the Premier League as that great of a league because of the performances in the Champions League. But whatever the case, I'm looking forward to this midweek. I'm also looking forward to next weekend and hoping to see a lot more great results and great performances because that's what the fun of the league is. It's a lot of entertainment. Anything can go anybody's way any given day. Who knows? Maybe Palace will pick up their first points against high-flying Man U. Wouldn't that be crazy? On top of that, you've got Man City versus Chelsea, which could be an early contender for a game of the season. It'd be very interesting to see how that one goes because Man City have been flying high, but you look at who they've been playing, and aside from Liverpool, who kind of got unlucky with the Mane red card early on, they haven't really faced opposition like Chelsea so far this season. So it'd be very interesting to see, can their attack do it against a very solid backline of Chelsea? Can Morata manage to break through the backline that's been fairly solid for a Pep Guardiola backline? Very interesting to see, very exciting fixture to look forward to. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this weekend? Who are the best and worst performances? What are you looking forward to most this midweek and next weekend? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Premier League weekend reviews. I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.